Welcome to Masonic Memories, where we chat with senior members of our lodge and reminisce about events, people, and their contributions to our fraternity. Pull up a chair, grab a coffee, and listen to the way things were back in the day as we meet on the plum, act on the level, and part on the square. Today we're meeting with Walter Vickers, a proud Native American who was chief of the Nipmuc tribe in central Massachusetts. Walter was also master of United Brethren Lodge in 1986 and 1987 and district deputy in 1991. He holds many titles in Grand Lodge, but the title that means the most to me is that of friend. Well, Walter, I think we have a lot to talk about. You were past master twice. You were district deputy in 1991. But why don't we start off with Joe Vickers?
Okay, Joe Vickers, my father. He was after me for a few months to become a Mason. And talked to my brother-in-law Dave. And he also talked with Al Longworth. And I think he got credit for 3 people he brought in all at once. So he started out being a cook helping Russ Bouse and ended up being there alone. Russ didn't want to do it anymore. And he
This was the Breakfast Club.
The Breakfast Club. And my father did it every morning. He'd be there for, I don't know, maybe till noontime, and then he'd go home. But he did that up until the time he got ill, and then my brother-in-law Dave took over and did it until he got ill.
It'd be Dave Wiles.
Dave Wiles. I joined Masonry because of my niece, Julie. She was born with one arm. And I seen my father take her to Springfield, the Shriners Hospital, and then I seen what they started doing with her, and she started off with a stub that she crawled with. Then she went from there to a hook on her arm. And then was given a bionic arm. And I just wanted to try to repay that in some way. And I know I couldn't afford to pay it with cash in as far as paying for it, but we tried other ways, and I think we succeeded. That was the most important part of the reason that I joined Masonry. I told Worshipful Carini the same thing, and he was the one that I went in under.
How long was your father a Mason before you joined?
I don't know when he was raised. It may have been a year, it may have been 2 years. It wasn't long, because my uncle Eddie was a Mason in Maine for several years, and he always was asking my father to get into it.
Who put you in line?
Yeah. It was Dick Carini put me in, and he asked me if I wanted to go. After I made my third degree, I was teaching the cipher, which I enjoyed very much. And then they put me in line, and my cousin was in line, and Larry Jaffe was in line, and
Who was your cousin?
Fanny O'Connell. Mm-hmm. And he, for some reason, dropped out. And so they put me in his place. And he was a junior steward. And then I became junior steward, and Larry Jaffe dropped out. He was senior steward. So they bumped me up chair, and that's as many chairs as I was bumped up to. And I went the rest of the way through. and became master.
Who did you join with? Do you remember who you joined with, and who taught you cipher?
Cipher was taught to me by, I had one class, there was Larry Parks, and there's several other people. And Walter Demusian helped out once in a while. And I had a real good teacher who worked with me. His name was Jacobs, Brother Jacobs,
Richard?
from Matthew John Whittle Lodge. And he'd come down every 15 minutes, it seemed, and ask me if I know what he taught me. I said, and I'd repeat it, and he was very happy. He ended up, when I made Master Mason, he ended up giving me a Bible. And I thought it was very nice of him.
How did you get to be master for 2 years?
Unfortunately, Jack Lyons was going to be after me. But in that first year, when I was still master, Jack Lyons was killed by an automobile in front of the fire station. And I took his place. Nobody wanted to go up, jump up, so I stayed in, and I finished out 2 years. But Jack Lyons was a super person. I tell you a story about Jack that the Labor Day parade, he wanted to make some clam chowder. So he went and bought all the clams and cream and everything else, and he made the clam chowder. And then the next morning, we went to pick it up at his house. And we put it in the back of the wagon, and all the guys that put it there said you couldn't stand the smell on the way down to the lodge. And when we get to the lodge, I had told him, I said, Jack, I'm sorry, but you must have left that out all night because it's sour. And he started crying. Jack broke down, and I said, oh, well, look at, don't cut yourself. We'll make another clam chowder. We'll go up and we'll get some clams and we'll make another. So we did. We made another clam chowder, made it down the lodge, and we had a lot of help. But I knew how to make clam chowder, and I made it. And him and I, and Dick Johnson, and a bunch of other guys, and we had a nice time. And
now, I remember you put on turkey dinners for the folks at the Pine Grove Inn, and I think Jack used to entertain the men from the inn there. Can you talk about that?
Box, yeah.
What was that like?
Yeah, we had a lot of fun. We tried to entertain them. Dick and I started the cooking turkeys for the whole turkey dinner for Thanksgiving for the Pine Grove Rest Home and Father Joe. And we did that for several years. And Jack used to have a little squeeze box that he'd come down with and play that little squeeze box. And he just had a lot of fun. And all the old men that were there that came down for supper enjoyed it very much. They had a good time. And I love another thing about Jack Lyons, and we still do it today. When he was going to come in to be master, he had gone out one winter night, and he had bought three silver emblems. The senior warden emblem, junior warden emblem, and the master's emblem. And he came around, it was snowing out, and he came to my house and handed me the master's emblem, and he went to the junior warden's house and handed him the emblem, and the senior warden's house. And we all thought, and to this day, we all thought that was a great thing. But to this day, when we changed masters and wardens, we changed those medals are passed on. And we have a ceremony. We have a ceremony at the lodge.
Passing of the pins.
Passing of the pins.
You got a little confrontation with the treasurer when you were master, and you had a great idea. And can you tell me about that?
Well, when the business meetings came up and the annual business meeting came up, we have reports from the secretary, we have reports from the treasurer, or we had one from the treasurer, but only on the annual report. So I said, well, why don't we have a report from the treasurer every now and then during the year? And the treasurer at that time didn't look on that as being too well a thing.
And boy, was he wrong and bullheaded at the time.
Yeah, but ever since then, that treasurer has praised me for it. So, thank you very much, Larry. I'd like to take something that I remembered, and it made me feel great to do. The person who's Larry Park, Brother Larry Park, has done a lot for the lodge. He's been the treasurer. He's been a gift giver to everyone. And I just wanted to mention about him and his dad. He came to me one day and he says, is there anything I could do in the raising of my father? And because his father was raised under my turn. And I said, yeah, I think I can find something. So Larry, and he practiced on one of the parts of the raising. And I said, sure you can do it. And so I let him get up to the east and take that part and do it with his dad. And I'll tell you right now, I know that he has never forgotten it. Thank you. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you. I'll always be grateful for that. You had a good relationship with one Grandmaster, and he appointed you district deputy. Can you tell me about that?
Well, Most Worshipful Darling came to me one day, and it was at the Grand Master's Country Fair. He says, I got a bunch of letters on my desk. He says, stating you would make a good district deputy. And and then he asked, well, can you work with me? I said, I can work with anyone. And he laughed, and I said, yes, most workable, I could work with you. The day that my interview was to be done at Grand Lodge, we had a tremendous hurricane, and Ed Dowling had to go into Grand Lodge to interview all the incoming district deputies. So he asked me, he said, will you drive me in? He said, I'll meet you down at the Best Western. I said, sure. So I met him down there. I picked him up, and we drove into my car down to. He says, "You'll be my marshal today." He says, "And marshal couldn't make it." I said, "Fine." I said, "Thank you." So we went in, and he says, "You'll bring in the district deputies to me as I asked for them." I said, "Certainly," and I did. And it was getting late. You know, we had warnings from the governor that we had to be out of there by a certain time because of the storm, and that the Mass Pike was free on the way back. And Ed said, "We're going to have to make that time up." I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, we get as many guys in as we could," and we finally get through the line and got everybody in. And I said, "Well, when am I going to be interviewed?" He said, "Well, we'll talk on the way home." So that's the way it went. We talked on the way home.
Appointed a marshal and a secretary. Can you tell me who you appointed about them?
Well, you know, I didn't really know who I should appoint, and then I got talking with Frank Foss and Dick Johnson, and I said, "You know, I really don't know." And Frank says, "Well, I had two." I said, "Yeah, who were they?" And I figured they'd probably passed on now. And he said, "Oh no, they're still here." And Dick says, "Yeah, Bob and Carl." I said, "Oh." Well, I said, "Let me talk with them." So I went and I asked each one of them if they would want to do it again. And they said, sure, we'd be happy to." So I appointed them both as my, I appointed Bob Bailey as my marshal, and I appointed Carl Hedberg as my secretary. When my 2 years were up, I asked them, you know, "You have any idea of what you might like? Because you served me for 2 years, and I owe you something." And then they said, "Oh, no, you don't need to get it." I said, "Well, I'll do the same thing as everybody else did. I'll get you a nice gold pin." "Oh, we don't have pins. We have enough pins," you know. So I took them up to the photographer, and we had a picture made. And that picture is held in Grand Lodge, and I gave each one of them a picture. So,
Can you tell me any stories about either one of them?
Bob was a dedicated Mason, so was Carl, and both were. Every time I went to church, I'd see Carl in church, so that was nice. And of course, Bob lived in the same town as I did, and I seen him every time I seen Dick Johnson. So most of the time.
You held a whole lot of positions in Grand Lodge. Can you tell me all the positions you held in Grand Lodge? And I know for years and years you did something that was kind of special at Grand Lodge.
Dick Johnson came to the house one night, and he asked me if I'd be interested in being the grand standard bearer. I said, "Wow, grand standard bearer." And he says, "Yes." He says, "I was appointed deputy grand master, and I need to have you as my grand standard bearer." So I said, "That most certainly." I talked to Carol, and we both agreed that I'd take it. So then I did that, and then after that year was over, and I enjoyed it very much. We went to just about every lodge in Massachusetts, so we had a good time. Of course, Dick always complained because he says, "What do you want to go home so early for?" "Well, I have to go to work tomorrow morning, and I don't want to be sleeping in the parking lot." So We worked everything out. It was a good year. It was a very good year. And after that, the Grand Master says, well, I need a sword bearer for next year. Will you be interested in that? And I said, most certainly. So I became Grand Sword Bearer the following year. But in between that time, he asked Worshipful Dick Stewart had asked me, would I like to be a transportation chairman? And I said, transportation for what? He said, for driving into Logan Airport, picking up the people who come in from out of state and out of the country to travel to the Marriott in Newton. And I says, well, let me think about that. So I thought about it for a couple of days. Then I called Dick up and I said, sure, I'll take that. The chairman for that for 29 years.
You met a lot of interesting people?
I met a lot of Grand Masters. I met Grand Masters from New York, from just about every state. And of course, they gave me a medallion of their state, and I still treasure those things. I believe it was 1995. I was chairman of the Grand Masters Country Fair.
I know you're very proud involved with the Nipmuc tribe, and so was your father.
Oh, my father was a medicine man at the Nipmuc tribal reservation in Grafton. It's a Hassan-Misco reservation, and Hassan-Misset reservation. And I went up there several years, and finally I was asked, would I like to run for chief? And I said, I don't know. I really don't know. I says, I'm not quite sure of that. And then I said, you have to give me time. I took my time and I considered what I have to do, and I went back to another meeting a couple of weeks later, and I told them, I said, I would run for it. So I ran for it, and out of 4 other people that ran for it, I did get it. And I was chief for 50 years. That was a big part of my life. My life considered my family, my heritage, and my connection with Masonry. Freemasons. And I loved all 3 of them. That was my total life. And of course, making a living. And then, but I was chief, and I held the tribe together because we tried to get recognition. We got it, and the government turned it away from us. In 2013, I decided that I was getting up in age and that I should take and consider somebody else for chief. And I had my eye on this one young lady that has done a tremendous job, and I did make her a chief. She is now running the tribe, and she is doing it with grace, with honesty, and with great honor to our people. The government says that people that are holding Indian bones or Indian artifacts that mean anything of religion or to the Indian people, they should be given back. Well, Peabody Museum in Andover had 3 bodies, 3 sets of bones that they had got from Marlborough some years back, and they put them in a drawer and studied them and this and that for so many years. Now, Gary Brown, brother Gary Brown, came to me one day and he says, they want to talk with you. Well, I went up with them and they talked, and they said, well, there's paperwork involved, and they helped me out with the paperwork and all this. And they finally turned the bones back to me. And I, in turn, re-interned them in Marlborough with the help of Monty's stone and of course, Gary's help. We re-interned them in the cemetery behind the Walker Building. And Monty was good enough to give me a stone, and the undertaker was, he gave us the containers and everything, and packed them and everything, and helped me out a great deal. And the bones are back where they belong. They was, I guess, I just found out recently that they were dug up when they were building the Marlborough Hospital. But the bones were from 1675, when the King Philip's War was on, and these people were being taken to Deer Island in Boston. They didn't want to go. They must try to run away and were shot.
Well, Walter, I have to ask you, I was in Barbados, and I went on a tour of the caves, and it was being given by a native person from Barbados. And he had a little office there, or a little desk, and on his desk, lo and behold, there was a picture of you in your Native American outfit. How did he ever get that?
Well, that's a good story. One of the best things that I had done in masonry, besides masonry itself, is to go on a trip with the Grand Master and 80 other people. And I did that, and my wife and I both went to Barbados. No, that was Aruba. Yeah, Aruba. We went to Aruba, and Worshipful Dick Stewart was with us, and he said he wanted to be my PR man because they have natives in Aruba, and he wanted to make sure that we met. So I said, okay. So I gave him a bunch of pictures, and I had a bunch of postcards, and I gave him a bunch of them, and he took them, and he spread those things all over the place. He gave them to the hotel, they had them in the windows, they had them on the beach, and then we went out to see the Indian caves out in the desert. And there was an old man there, told us where to park. Then he says, you come in and see Aruba. You see the caves of the Indians of Aruba. So we went in, and Dick handed him a picture. He says, well, Walter's an Indian from the United States and from Massachusetts. And he said, oh yeah, he took his picture. And then we looked at the cave. Well, the cave was about 15 feet deep, and that was it. There was some scratching on the ceiling and the walls, and you could probably rub it off with your fingers. It looked like crayons to me, right? So we said bye to him. As we were leaving, the cave, the Grand Master comes up and he wants to see the cave. So he parked his car and he walks over, and this old man comes running out and he says, hey, come here. And he went over there and he tells the Grand Master, this is my chief. And he showed him my picture. So we had a good laugh over that.
Walter, this has been a great afternoon. Is there any other things you want to tell us?
I just want to emphasize that Freemasonry to me has been the best part of my life, excluding my family. It has been a real honor and a privilege that my father gave me when he asked me to go and try to become a Mason. I hope I've done my share, and I've tried. Just recently, I've been set back, and it's held me back from going to lodge quite a bit. But I hope that I can get back what I lost and go to lodge again. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. I hope you enjoyed this discussion. There will be more chats with senior members of our lodge. We will reminisce about colorful characters, the 1975 fire, past activities. You may learn where our lodge furniture came from, who made our altar, and hear about the infamous pink degree.